Alabama got their big quarterback commit yesterday, so what does that mean going forward?
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. We'll talk about Gametime here in just a little bit, and thank you for making us your first listen every single day. So, Jimmy, Alabama got Keelon Russell yesterday. I hope that everybody got to check out the emergency podcast that we did on Keelon Russell. Or is it Keelon? Keelon or Keelon? Keelon.
I've been saying Keelon. I've been saying that, but gosh knows we've butchered him in the past. But I've been saying Keelon.
I mean, look, we'll find out soon enough. But regardless, he's a dude. Now, he had some interesting comments on NIL, basically saying, hey, again, this isn't verbatim, but he was basically saying, look, you can go somewhere, create your own brand, and I want to go somewhere to make it a big brand, which would be Alabama. That's a great spot to do that. And he said, I think he actually said, you can flip 300,000 into 2 million very quickly. Now, there are a lot of ways to interpret that. I'm assuming he means you can make 300,000 and then, on NIL from the collective side. And then, if you do well, right, you get more from advertising and, if you invest correctly. And I don't know, it's just this whole thing is so still very confusing, but I don't mind it. And I love the fact, frankly, that he puts it. At first, I didn't love the quote, but now I'm thinking, hey, you got this star quarterback saying, I want a big brand, and the biggest brand there is Alabama.
He wants to earn it.
Yeah.
That to me indicates he wants to earn it. And he's like, yeah, I realize they're going to give me this amount just for showing up. It's like, but I am interested in cashing in based on performance. I mean, he even mentioned in the Heisman that he sees himself as a Heisman winner.
He did say that, yeah.
He did say it. And it's easy to go, oh, come on, don't. But I sort of like it. I mean, you've got to have a lot of confidence to do well at this level. I mean, it is a must. Chipper Jones used to call it necessary arrogance. I like that term, and I think there's swagger, and so I like it. Now, the thing that Keelon is going to have to deal with, though, and he's never had to deal with this before because he's a special athlete, when he gets to Alabama, he's going to be humbled to an extent. I mean, to an extent, he will be humbled because he will get on the practice field with guys like Ty Simpson and Austin Mack and Dylan Lonergan and go, I've got to get better, and hopefully he attacks it. And those are the ones who succeed at the highest level, is those who show up and they're like, hey, I can do this. And they have some setbacks because no one that's played the game never has setbacks. I mean, unless you're, I don't know, I guess maybe Peyton Manning or something, but who did lose to Alabama as a freshman. So there's his setback. I like the confidence, but how is he going to react when the confidence is inevitably wounded? That will tell the story. Oh, a mute to start the game today.
It's been a long day already, Jimmy.
Never know. Yeah, I know. You're on the road.
I mean, I am on the road. I'm in Washington, D.C. But, so regardless, you're right. And again, there's still some points about that quote that are concerning to me and the whole trajectory of where NIL is going because, NIL is going to be just like inflation. I mean, it's just going to keep going up where – this year a quarterback may cost you $500,000. Next year it'll be $650,000. The next year it may jump to $1 million. The next year it may jump to $2 million. And it keeps going. And like that's why we keep saying that we got to have some guardrails. But that's a podcast for another day. I guess I just wanted to say that there's part of me that appreciates Keelon Russell's honesty, openness, and also the fact, like you said, I did interpret that like. He's like, hey, I can go there and make myself something. And be on a big stage. And he's not intimidated by anything. So I was really, really excited about that. Now, the other thing that comes from this, Jimmy, is Duke Johnson, the linebacker commit for Alabama, who's Alabama's highest rated commit, I believe, right now. He had a sort of a cryptic quote about like, and we're not done. We got a big target committing soon. I mean, again, I'm not verbatim, but this is on Twitter, so you can go see it.
It was after the Keelon Russell commitment.
It was like directly after. So it makes me wonder, my immediate thought was Ty Haywood just because he was just there, but I don't know. I'm just curious. Who do you think that could be?
I think Ty Haywood is definitely a very possible answer. I don't want to wrap my arms around and say this is who he's talking about because I don't know like anyone else. The good news is he could be talking about a few guys, which is actually better news than, there's only one guy leaning to Alabama. He could be talking about a few. There's two visiting this upcoming weekend that I feel are likely to one day commit to Alabama, and that's Dawson Merritt, the outside linebacker from Kansas City, and Michael Carroll, the offensive lineman from Pennsylvania, who are both big-time guys. I love them both. Could be talking about them because they're coming this weekend, and they're probably Alabama leans. But Ty Haywood, maybe, and by the way, Duke's going to be there this weekend too with Michael Carroll and Dawson Merritt. So I don't rule them out. But Ty Haywood is going to be my guess. I'll just say that I don't have a Keelon Russell sized confidence in saying that he's referring to Ty Haywood, but he could be. And what a big story that would be. I just watched a cool video that the athletic department put out with Tyler Booker this morning. And, I think there's some Tyler Booker and Ty Haywood.
I love that because Tyler Booker is becoming gunktastic, and he really is. I mean, he's up there. By the way, just to end this segment on something that has nothing to do with what we've been talking about, did you see the TikTok video or maybe Twitter, whatever, about Derrick Henry being asked? I can't remember who was asking it, but he's been interviewed about like, who do you think the greatest running back in Alabama history is? And Derrick Henry is just so awesome. He's so humble. But he said, look, I have to put Sean Alexander up there, which I found that so interesting because Derrick Henry was barely alive when Sean.
I was going to say, he was either just born. I think it was like
Guess who's calling me? Guess who's calling me?
Your daughter.
Yes. I mean, it's uncanny. But anyway.
It's nice that she reaches out. You're
in Washington, Jimmy.
You're Washington, D.C. around all those criminal representatives.
No, I'll tell you something, man. I will give a shout out, man. I love all my children, but there is a special bond that dads have with their daughters. And I got two daughters, and they really are awesome, and I appreciate them. And they reach out to me more than my sons do, so they will get more of this pitiful inheritance. But Derrick Henry, I want to go back to that for a second. It really was intriguing. We could spend one day. We're going to do a podcast on that, like the best position Alabama ever, or at least of our generation. And I mean, I think the answer is clear as Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry was so humble. He said Sean Alexander's up there because he was just so awesome. And then he said Mark Ingram is probably up there because he set the tone for the Saban era, which is so true. But Derrick Henry's a better running back than Mark Ingram. I don't think there's a debate, and I don't mean that as a shot at Mark Ingram. He's just better.
Yeah, Derrick's the best running back in Alabama history. I
agree.
No problem saying that. I mean, I'm a hardware guy. When it comes to this sort of thing, drives some people crazy. I know maybe I'm wrong-headed to think that way. I asked the other day, what was the best Saban defense? And I know the numbers and the analytics and the talent is screaming that it's 2016, but I refuse. It's 2011 because they won the national championship. We won the national championship because of that 2011 defense. I'm a hardware guy. So to me, the best running back in Alabama history, I start with Heisman's. It's Ingram or Henry, and I think Henry's better. So I'm with Luke, and Derrick's got and I know Sean was great. I know Bobby Humphrey was great. Johnny Musso from the older days was great. Several of the other Saban backs were really good, but Derrick Henry is the all-time leading high school rusher, I think, in U.S. high school history.
Let me put it this way, Jimmy. Here's a good way to put it. If Bobby Humphrey, who I love, if Bobby Humphrey were on the 2015 team, I think he would have had a great year. I don't think he would have had Derrick Henry numbers, but I think he would have had a great year.
Yeah.
If Derrick Henry were on the 86 team, I think he wins the Heisman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because again, can you? And by the way, if Derrick Henry had been there on the '86 team, this is going down a rabbit hole. But you would have gone a series of running backs in college football. Herschel Walker, who was a freak of nature, Bo Jackson, freak of nature, and Derrick Henry, a freak of nature. Nobody will ever want to admit this because it's anti-recency bias. Derrick Henry's as good as those two in college, and actually better than they are in the pros. I mean, Derrick Henry's insanely good, and people just don't mention him in the greats, but they should, and I think 10 years down the road, they will.
Yeah, I think he's almost not disrespected, but he's not appreciated enough in his time.
Agreed.
Because, I mean, who can be, like I said, the leading high school rusher in American history, goes to college, rushes for 2,000 yards and wins a Heisman, goes to the NFL, and is probably, I think we'll discover when he's done, during his time in the NFL, he was the best running back in the NFL and arguably one of the greats of all time.
You know, I was talking to Zach Blackerby the other day about just stuff with the podcast, and Locked on Auburn, they do a great job. And I said, you know, I asked him about the live reads, and he said, yeah. He said, actually, you and Jimmy are nailing the live reads in the format now. I can't believe it. And I said, you know, the one thing I do that goes off script, besides the show, is talking about game time. Because I said, and I told him this is just me and Zach talking. I said, I absolutely love game time. I've used it for everything. And he said, have you really used it? I said, dude, I've used it for the World Series, NBA, college basketball, college football, college stuff that doesn't have to, college baseball. I used it for Alabama baseball game. Use it for the NBA, use it for the NFL. I've used it for everything. And I love it. It's awesome. I'm telling you, I'm imploring you to go check out Game Time. Use code Locked On College for $20 off your first order. All you got to do is download this app. It's super easy. And it's just, you know, you can download an app. We're all in the 21st century, I think. So go download that app, put it on your phone, and then use Game Time, and you will absolutely love it. There was one, out of all these things I've done, there was one slight hiccup, and it was kind of my fault. And I got customer service, and they knocked it out of the park immediately. I was done. It was my fault. So I'm just telling you that those are the things that I want to sell people on. It's like, if you have good customer service, people will forgive a lot of stuff. And their customer service was A+. So I'm telling you, I love Game Time. I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. Go to Game Time, download the app, use code Locked On College for $20 off that first order. I promise you, you will not regret it. All right, so Jimmy, you know, we talked about the Duke Johnson, talked about Keelon Russell. We're going to just talk briefly about some other. You talked about some other commitments or other visits coming up this weekend, and there's a nice little list coming in. First of all, I do want to talk about this, even though I think you and I are having very reserved optimism. If it's not optimism and it's not pessimism, what is it? Is it just medium?
Realism?
Realism. That's pretty good.
Realism.
We're being realist about Naheem Alford. That's all we're saying. Yeah. Yes, he's visiting a lot. He's also visiting. I mean, he's visiting us probably a little more so than Auburn. He's still committed to Ohio State. He's tweeting some folks about, hey, come with me to Ohio State. And look, I feel like there is a shot for Alabama. I am not one of these people that, even though he's going to be visiting this coming weekend, which is big and it's nice and it's great, I'm not one of these people that's going to say ultimately he will flip yet. I'm just not doing that. Now, here's something else, though, when it relates to Ohio State. Ohio State just got a commitment from, ironically, Bo Jackson. Not that one, the new one. And so what that may mean is, okay, that's one less battler for Jordan Davidson, the running back out of Mater Dei. So is he visiting this weekend, or did he just visit?
He just visited. He was there this past weekend. Bo Jackson canceled his Alabama visit because of his commitment to Ohio State.
We assumed that was going to happen. So that takes Ohio State out of the picture probably. So you feel better about Alabama with Jordan Davidson. And then the other thing that happened that I think is very big news. First of all, Mika DeBose visited yesterday. And so that's good. I mean, now this kid's been all over the map. He's been committed to Georgia, favored Auburn, LSU, favored Bama, whatever. But I feel like ultimately he'll end up in Bama's class. And then Justice Fitzpatrick, Minka's brother, was just offered by Alabama. Now he's in the 26 class, right?
26.
So, and he should be the number one DB in the class. And look, hey, I'm hoping that, that something good comes out of this. And he certainly seems to like Alabama a lot. And Minka certainly adored his time in Tuscaloosa. So a lot of positive things going on in recruiting, even if we are saying, hold your horses on an imminent Naheem Offord flip.
Yeah, I'm with Luke 100% there. I think, first of all, I was saying when Offord was committed to Ohio State so early that Alabama fans that blew him off and wrote him off were wrong. I mean, you never write off an in-state kid that Alabama would really love to have. Don't write off Alabama until signing day has come and gone. And I think his unofficial visits and official visits proves that out, that don't give up on Naheem Offord and still don't give up on Naheem Offord. Do I have him on flip watch? No, not yet. Now we could get information that would change that. But as of right now, right now, I just think it's really interesting and fun that Alabama's taken their swing at Offord, and we'll see. Because as a player, this kid is fantastic. He's fantastic. I think he's number 1A or 1B cornerbacks in the country, along with Devin Sanchez, who's committed to Ohio State. Sanchez is awesome, but Offord's awesome too. So we'll see. It's just a good example of how Kalen DeBoer and Courtney Morgan are doing such a great job of getting the best players in the country to campus, because you ain't going to sign them unless they come to campus. You're not going to talk some kid into signing with us who's gone on official visits to 6 places but not here. He ain't signing with us. You got to get him to come here first. That's the necessary first step. The fact Offord's come twice in a week is great news, tempered by the fact a little bit that he lives, 45 minutes up the road.
Yeah, it's not even cautious optimism. I'm just cautious. I'm not going to even pencil in Naheem Offord in this class until I get some more information.
We're doing well at cornerback too. Dejon Lee is another elite national level cornerback leaning to Alabama out of California, and Chuck McDonald, another national top cornerback prospect from modern day, left Alabama, naming Alabama as his leader.
Don't you love the modern day connection we have right now?
It's crazy. I mean, we got to credit Bryce to a degree. The real story, we've talked about it before, people listen. The real story about how the modern day pipeline started is, of course, Bryce Young. And how do we get Bryce Young? Sark. And how did Sark get Bryce Young? Sark's son was a 9th grader on that modern day team. Sark had a child from an earlier marriage, from his divorce, and his ex-wife still lives in California and sending the kid to modern day. And that's how Sark created that relationship with Bryce, or at least got his foot in the door that way. And now we see the Bryce thing still paying off. Just kind of funny that a lot of people don't trace that all the way back to them, but that's literally how that started.
I mean, it really is true. The old saying about the fluttering wings of a butterfly can create a typhoon in somewhere else, or I butchered that, but you know what I mean. It's a Nietzsche thing, I think. I don't know.
Or we are, as dumb as we are, we ought to just go with that's real science.
Yeah, that's good. I think
there's a hurricane in the Gulf because a butterfly flapped his wings on the Ivory Coast.
I don't think flapped was in the original saying.
Flapped.
Like, can you imagine like Aristotle going, yes, I think what I've concurred is that this monarch butterfly flapped its protrusions. Anyway, okay, let's go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some of these preview mags that came out. And I'll tell you something. I started looking at one in the airport and I got scolded. All right, so I was in the airport flying out to DC yesterday, and I love going to the airport this time of year because this is where the magazines are. I don't go anywhere else where the magazines will be.
Do you go to the airport even if you're not flying somewhere? That's where you like to hang out.
Great place to meet women if you only want to see them for a little while.
That's the ultimate tag and release.
Yeah. But so I'm at the bookstore thing that that has all the crap in it.
Luke, I want this to be a serious relationship. you realize you're missing your flight.
Yes. I want this to be serious
until
until you catch your connection to Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Sorry about that.
Anyway, so I'm in the bookstore and like the Lindy's magazine's out. I'm like, yeah, because again, for an older dude like us, older dudes like us, it is nostalgic. It is, Jimmy, I remember being in the car with my mom. There used to be a cassette tape that would come out and it would preview like every team in the SEC back when we only had 10 teams. And back in those days, my parents had a condo in Destin, and my mom and I would go down there, and I just put in the cassette tape because it was about 4 hours long. It was 4 hours of just it talked about every team, and my mom and I were just like enthralled.
I've never heard of that before. That's awesome.
It was awesome. I loved it. Well, also, so when Lindy's comes out, that's how pre-internet, that's how we learn stuff, right? And so it is a useless $12 or whatever it is, because I can find everything they do online. But touching that magazine means something to me, right? So anyway, I pick it up because I'm excited, and I'm just flipping through it, and I'm like, I'm not going to buy it right now because my flights were. I was like, I got too much to do on the plane. I don't want to be distracted. And I was just flipping through, seeing some stuff. And there's always only one lady that works in the store. She walks by, doesn't look at me, but says it loud enough to where it's directed to me. She goes, when you're touching magazines, you can only look at the front and the back, and then you got to put them up. And I was like, well, I mean, do you charge me by how does this work? How do you stop me? I'm a lot bigger than you. but anyway, so I got kind of PO'd and I put it down and left. And so I'm going to buy one on the way home.
Yeah, buy it somewhere else now. That's what you got to do. You got to buy it somewhere else.
I will not be spending another penny in this Edwards bookstore in Atlanta. Thank you. But anyway, so it was funny and this isn't necessarily about Alabama. I just find it funny. Brian Harsin stuff's always funny. Like there were some guys that, the anonymous coaches stuff, which I appreciate. And I think because you know what, that's the only time they can be candid. They can't come out and say anything like that, like some of the things they said. So anyway, they were talking about Auburn, and they said, well, look, they finally have some depth, or at least have more depth at wide receiver on both sides of the line, because the previous staff didn't really do well or whatever. And Brian Harsin tweeted about this, like he quote tweeted it and was like, a real coach would stand behind his words and whatever. And I'm thinking, Brian, I love you in the sense that you almost ruined Auburn football, which I appreciate. But you're so tone deaf. Like, how can you be this tone deaf? Like, you were awful. Just take your $15 million and get out of here. I mean, I just found it. He was
almost like a fan. I think they read that stuff and they automatically think, gosh, this writer was talking. I wonder which coach this writer was talking to. Did he get this from Josh Heupel? Did he get this from Sam Pittman? Yeah. Did Kirby Smart say this about me? All it says, it's from an anonymous SEC coach. It's probably somebody's DB coach. It's probably an assistant coach. It's probably an assistant coach that almost no one in the league that almost no fans can name except the fans of that one school, wherever the guy happens to be from. So that's one thing. It's an assistant coach, almost certainly. It doesn't say an anonymous SEC head coach. So I think Harsin's feelings might have been really hurt because he thought, quote unquote, a peer was saying that about him. But you're right. I think Harsin should spend his money and or work on getting the Boise job back. He needs to do one of those two things.
I mean, as far as I know, he didn't have a coaching gig. And I mean, why would he? He's got $15 million. I mean, I guess you can always say, well,
I think he pursued the Boise. He pursued the Boise job. I think it was just open, wasn't it? And they gave it to somebody else.
If you get me $15 million, y'all will never hear from me again.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just telling you, like, I don't need any more than that. That's all I need.
Yeah, I was telling my wife about Justin Jefferson's contract, the big mega contract he signed. Oh. And I said, it's over. It's $100 million guaranteed. And it's only a 4-year deal. I said, at his age, a 4-year deal, he can get this $100 million guaranteed plus all the other parts of it he'll earn. It's over in 4 years. He's got another contract after this one.
Yeah.
And she said, and her answer to that was, why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's Jimmy. Let me say the same thing with Waddle. Waddle just got paid huge money, and what I hate about this is now they're making so much money that they won't stay around as long. And okay, I know that's easy for me to say. It's not my body that's being sacrificed. I understand. But if you love football, if you love sports, then you want a lot of these guys. You don't want you want to be able to fall in love with these guys for the long term. You don't want them there for 5 years and then gone. You know, Barry Sanders, God bless him. I love him. I like, part of me is always mad that he didn't stay a little longer. He had a lot of good
We
games.
were robbed.
Huh?
We were robbed as fans of some big time Barry Sanders moments.
We should share with us. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, I get it totally. And it's going to be hard for those guys to walk away from sports. But at the same time, if I was their relative and someone who had a personal relationship with them, I'd also just say, hey, you know how it's going to be hard to walk away? Sign another contract. It might be literally hard to walk away.
Yeah, when you're in a wheelchair because your knees are shot.
How about retiring while you still can function?
Aaron Donald just did it.
Yep, and I don't blame him. And again, we're being robbed. I mean, he retired as still the best defensive player in the NFL, or certainly on the shortest of lists. And to some extent, we're robbed there. But I'm happy for him that he apparently gets to go into retirement very, very healthy. Certainly one of the all-time greats. And now, as a recruiting guy, I've got to put up with every single year there will be a 6'1", 265-pound defensive lineman that I have to hear is the next Aaron Donald. Thanks, Aaron.
That's true.
Because 999 out of 1,000 will not be the next Aaron Donald.
Yeah. Now, the other thing to mention here is, and this is not about football, but Alabama basketball, the Illinois game date is set for December 20th, which is a Wednesday night in Birmingham. A little weird, but okay.
Yeah, especially during the Christmas time of year.
I'm fine with it because it is during the Christmas time of year. I wish it were on a weekend, but whatever. I'm cool with it. Give me something to do on that Wednesday night. You know, I'll be looking for stuff to do right before Christmas like that to get out of my house. So, but anyway, that's going to be fun. Just wanted to throw that out there. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.